One second, you guys.
Okay, yay! I am now seen. Hello. Can I hear you all?
Maribel.
Hi. I was there. Y'all are talking about me, and I'm like, I'm here. All right. So I guess my wireless got unpaired. That's okay. I have backup.
No problem. All right, so Hugh, I see your hand up, Hugh. Give me 1 second. Let me get this thing started. Hugh, how you doing, Miss Chair Carpenter? How are you doing, sister? Good to see you. Good to see you.
I don't know if you want to have the chief moved over to a panelist or not.
I'll when we get to that point, we'll do that with him and Hugh. We'll move. We'll have both of them come over. Let's just do this really quickly, you guys. 1 second.
Okay, I feel official now. Now I can hear you and everything. Before I was like in a panic, like, what is going on?
Look at you. Now you can do everything. Look at
You know what? Thank you, Kristen. If what I have had to do with this platform crashing and doing like everything that you're hearing is exactly what's happening to me for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So it's not been easy, but you have to be adaptable and not panic.
All right, everybody, you guys ready to go ahead and get started? Member McLean, you're good. Member Frustone, Ms. Frustone, we're good. Vice Chair Frustone. Chair Carpenter, you also have host capabilities.
Okay.
Okay. Miss Purcell, AKA Lisa Williams.
Yes, Purcell.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And Member Kirk, I see you. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. At this point in time, you guys will have the Chair Carpenter. She will call the meeting to order with the name and the time.
Okay. El Portal's Virtual Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force Board meeting of September 9th is officially called to order at 3:36 p.m. And we can jump right into the silent meditation and pledge. If everyone wants to take a moment of silence, and in the meantime, if we could go ahead and pop the flag up. Perfect. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, guys. And Vice Mayor Nickerson, if you could go ahead and go right into roll call, I believe, is next.
Appreciate it. Chair Carpenter.
Present.
Vice Chair Fruitstone.
Present.
Member McLean.
Present.
Member Kirk.
Here.
Member Purcell.
Present.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You have a quorum. Madam Chair, for the record, we also have the chief from El Portal is here. We also have Hugh Gladwin for the record. He's more or less a consultant, and we'll have those two brought over also. Chief Magnuson and Mr. Hugh Gladwin as a consultant.
Perfect. Can I go ahead and promote them to panelists? Is that how I bring them over?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I think that should do it. Welcome, Mr. Gladman and Chief Magnuson. All right, let's go ahead and move to the approval of the agenda that Courtney so graciously sent out last week. Has everyone had a chance to look at that? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda from last
Madam Chair, if I may, Madam Chair, the motion to approve the agenda is for the agenda that we see in front of us for today. What Member Kirk sent us were the notes and minutes.
I apologize. Okay, so we'll start that over. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting of September 9th?
I have a motion to approve the agenda, excuse me, to approve today's agenda.
Thank you, Maribel. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second, today's agenda is approved. And now I'm going to move to approve the minutes from our prior meeting on August 26th.
Chair, shouldn't we, just from formality, shouldn't we vote on the motion that was seconded?
The motion to approve the agenda, Member Kirk, you are correct. It's either aye or nays.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye, all opposed say nay. I was going to say that, I just didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda for today's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, the agenda for today's meeting is approved. Thank you, Courtney, for catching that. I'm going to go ahead and move to the approval of our minutes from last meeting, August 26th. And everyone did get a chance to look, as you all stated. Can I get a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the minutes from the August 26th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Okay. Having a motion and a second, all in favor of approving the minutes from the August 26th, 2020 meeting, say aye.
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 Aye. And all those against say nay. Hearing no nays, the minutes from the August 26th, 2020 meeting have been approved. And looking to the agenda, we can now move on to the acknowledgement of visitors and special presentations. And I will turn it back to you, Vice Mayor Nickerson, for
Yes,
those.
no problem. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have no visitors or special presentations at this particular moment. The manager wanted to be here, but she couldn't be here. She recently, which we'll see in agenda item number 1, we'll speak about that. She emailed me her report that we spoke about last time. She emailed it probably about 30 something minutes ago. I will be sending that to the entire task force. So we have no acknowledgement of visitors or special presentations. We can move, Madam Chair, to get in welfare to see if anybody from the audience wants to come on and say anything. I don't see anybody, but you can ask me.
Do we have any member of the public participate? Okay. Seeing none, we can move to the first agenda item, which is, as you mentioned, Vice Mayor Nickerson, the manager's report for the task force tracking purposes. And I assume this is a follow-up from what we briefly heard from the manager at our last meeting.
Yes, it is, Madam Chair. You guys see right here, and I will be sending this to you guys right after this, right when we move to the next agenda item. Right here at 3:06, she sent it to me. So this is that report, the Resiliency Memo. I'm not going to go over it right now, but it is a very detailed report that she sent. I will be emailing this to you guys, and you guys can go over it. And then any questions or comments, I'll do my best to have her. She was going to be here today, but I did tell her that she needs to give you guys time to view it and dissect it, and therefore it's better for her to come on next time. Plus, she did at the last moment have a meeting that she had to attend. So as you see, it's very lengthy, and it will go over a lot of things that the Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force will want to hear about, and so like we don't duplicate things that are already being done and other such. All right. So
Vice Mayor Nickerson, does it make sense for us to table this agenda item for the next meeting so that we can read and respond to this memo?
yeah, so if you look at the agenda item, I put update, right? So every time that we have an agenda item, it doesn't necessarily mean that the item has to be voted on. You know, but for public purposes, we do have to at least bring it up so that, you know, it's introduced in the public sunshine law and stuff like that. So, which is why I said when I sent out the agenda, like I apologize again, you know, work was difficult. When I sent the agenda, I said that even though you guys are lengthy, that we'll be breezing through a lot of things very quickly on this agenda.
There's a bunch of background noise. I'm not sure whose it is, but if we could mute while we're not talking, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Madam Chair, so that's agenda item H1.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item H2, our storm safety action plan. I think we saw your update from Mayor Nickerson, but if you could just kind of briefly speak to the team, and thank you, Kristen, for being available to be on that call with the Village Council.
Yeah, also let me say, Madam Chair, for anybody who, for agenda item H1, like I said, I will be emailing to you guys in a few minutes. For agenda item H1, if you guys do have any questions or comments, please respond to, or you guys can email me, call me, or text me, or whatever. Any questions that you have for me or the village manager, and I'll definitely get those to her. You can also CC her if you want to, or you guys can contact her and CC me. Thank you very much.
Just a question on that. Would the goal, just in the spirit of sunshine, right? So would the goal be that we review this and that we can somehow bring questions together into a version of the document that then we can all review together, even if it's like, is the goal for us to centralize our questions so that when we come back together again, they're in a central spot to review, or just we're going to throw them on the pile when we talk next time?
It's more to throw them on the pile. So she's giving you guys an update as far as, because remember when you go out, we had our first meeting, you guys said we should do an audit of the village. That's basically where all of those pages are to see what's going on in the village. So she's doing that for you guys. You guys are going to take that, read it. She'll be here hopefully next time, and you guys from reading that might have questions about, you know, what's going on in the village, what could be going on, what's not going on, and she'll be here to answer those in real time. So that's what's going on. As far as, thank you very much, Member McLean. Madam Chair, with your permission to move on to H2.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, I just want to say for H2, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. McLean, Member McLean in a second. For this, you guys saw my email that went out. Whereas, you know, the storm action plan is something that is time sensitive with the storm safety action plan is something that's time sensitive with everything that's going on with the hurricanes and the storms that are out there and things like that. I knew that, you know, I was going to bring it through the Planning and Zoning Committee. If you guys did see my email, you saw that there was a mix up with us not having a clerk. It wasn't released in time to the committee. And therefore, the manager released it. You know, she made a small mistake, but she released it yesterday before the meeting. I know the council, and that would not be enough time. I figured for them to want to vote on it. But lo and behold, Madam Chair, Member McLean got on last night and did a wonderful job speaking about it. And you know, sometimes in government, you have to kind of read the room as far as the votes go and things like that. She did such a wonderful job. As soon as she was done, I was like, hey, let's vote on this. We can get it through. So Ms. McLean, Madam Chair, with your permission, I have Ms. McLean, Member McLean, kind of talk about what she presented last night.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So we introduced the document. I explained the structure of the document. I went over the bullet points of the 4 recommendations specifically. So building the zone, like designating the zones, building a plan, communicating a plan, thinking about a sandbag program, went over those specifically. And explained the intention, explained the fact that, you know, we had just convened, but we decided because we were literally right in the middle of storm season, and this was supposed to be an active season, that we wanted to, as our first action point, just get right on this and get it over to them, so that at least, even if it wasn't voted on by the council, the police chief and the village manager could use it, and we could use it to guide us if a storm does hit us before it was voted on. And I explained to the council that the chief and the village manager's feedback had already been, that it had passed in front of them, so that they were aware of it and had given us feedback. Explained that it wasn't intended to replace a plan, but to be additive to the plan. I also explained that that a flood scenario doesn't necessarily have to be married to a hurricane. So the reason that we need a separate flood plan to be in our emergency management documents is because, you know, there are other reasons why we might get a flood, including intense rainfall, like what we saw on Memorial Day. And also specifically underline that point about not letting the great be the enemy of the good, and that it was our intention that this be a living document, that it be revisited on a regular basis by the council, that it be part of regular business every year, and that we continue to add county guidance to it, that we continue to add the latest resilience information to it, and that it be basically a living document. And the feedback was very positive. We got lots of thank yous from the council and from the residents who were on. And so, yeah, so they agreed to pass it up to the regular council meeting in September for a formal vote. Presumably there may be some feedback on bits and pieces of it, but I think overall there were no really big questions. The one thing that did come up that I want to memorialize here, two things actually. The first is that Dr. Ward on the west side asked us how FEMA flood zones relate to our document. And I explained that we were not, that we would not be designating flood zones based on FEMA, we'd be designating flood zones based on the elevation of the house, and that, or the elevation of the lot rather. And so once the council puts the plan into action, approves it and puts it into action, then we would be communicating more about that, but that in the meantime, residents could go to the Rio Chico website that Hugh maintains to find their elevation right now, because the 5-foot mark we determined to be pretty critical for dangerous situations in the case of a major flood event. And so that's the first thing. Just, we do want to factor in FEMA. I know that Hugh's already been thinking about that. And then the other thing was that the mayor specifically suggested that we as a committee think about the outreach that we've already been talking about. I didn't actually bring this up last night, but she did raise it, that now that we're over this initial deliverable, that we want to think about expanding our network to other resilience committees in our local area, and possibly consider inviting members of those committees to come on and meet us. So I think that that's all I want to record here, but it was generally really positive. So good work, everybody.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will be myself. If you guys remember last time we had on what was it, Miss Castillo from the Miami-Dade Resiliency. Yes, the village, she did reach out to the village manager and myself about meeting, Madam Chair, as we will go over in a little while. I know one of the roles that you wrote down as the chair of task force is to, possibly represent the task force at meetings like that. So I will be emailing you that information. I will CC everybody from the village. She reached out to us on the 3rd. She reached out to us on the 3rd. And let me see what she says right here. Where's it at? Give me 1 second, Madam Chair. All she basically said was, if any times that work for us, she'll be okay with. She can come on and work with. So I will be keeping you guys updated about that. And I don't know who you guys may want to. I can, of course, be at the meeting. You guys might want somebody else at the meeting. You guys might want a couple people at the meeting. I know the village manager will be at that meeting whenever it takes place. I will be sharing that with you guys, and you guys will, as the task force decide what to do or who you guys want to represent you guys at that meeting with the Miami-Dade Resiliency.
So two things. The first is that I'm not sure if Elizabeth, if you were on when I said this, but I have to actually step off from 4 to 4:30. So just want to remind everybody of that if I disappear. And then I just want to point out that in agenda item H5, we specifically, part of what I want to talk about there is this task force ability to represent the village, not just in these networking meetings, but also in LMS meetings, which we can talk more about. We prepared a memo about it, and Hugh's here to talk about it too. So anyway, I just want to, there'll be more talk about that, I think, down below.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, if I may, what I plan on doing, we're going to do the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation next. There's a resolution attached to that. We saw that last time, but the attorney is with us now. That's the reason why when Kristen first started talking, giving her report about what happened at the committee meeting, I got on the phone. You guys let me pick up my cell phone real quick. I was calling the attorney. I wasn't being disrespectful, you guys. I'm always working here for you. I'm trying to do everything I can. So I was calling the attorney to make sure that he comes on for this. So what I'm going to do, we'll do that the H3, and then we'll do H4. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. If I don't plan it to take that long, then we can skip over H5. We can do H6, H7, and definitely by that time it should be 4:30 or therefore beyond.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest. So we'll just wait, Kristen, until you're able to pop back on to hit that.
Okay. The H5 and H6 are kind of tethered together.
Yeah.
Because they touch on funding. So, or H5 touches on funding also.
No problem. No problem. We can do H4 to H7. And even H8, we can also schedule a meeting. That being said, Madam Chair, that's all I have for that update for the planning and zoning. You guys, congratulations. Your first document, went through committee, and now it's going to go to council, where I have full faith that it's going to pass with flying colors. So congratulations to the task force. You guys are hitting the ground running, and I'm really proud of all of you guys. It's an honor to be here with you guys working, so I appreciate you guys. All right. Madam Chair, that's it for me for H2. We can go on to H3 if nobody has any more questions about H2.
Perfect. That's great news. And yeah, thank you everybody for work on that and for representing us at yesterday's meeting.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, do I have your permission to go to H3? Member McLean, take care. Have fun at your other meeting whenever you sign off. And thank you very much for last night. You were wonderful. You're wonderful. Madam Chair, H3 is the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. This was on the agenda last time, Madam Chair. There was a resolution attached to it. I know that a couple of the members, I know that you, Madam Chair, and Member Kurt, just wanted some clarification on the resolution itself. I have Attorney Powell here. Attorney Powell is the one that brought this, that found this challenge and brought it to the council. There is support from the council, but he did reach out to me and say that he did want to bring it through the committee. He wanted to introduce it to the committee because of the importance of and his respect for the Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force. Madam Chair, Mr. Powell, if you want to go ahead and kind of tell us maybe, how you found this, and if you can also, if you want to, I don't know if you have the resolution open, you can bring it up and share it on your screen. If not, then I can find it and do it myself.
Yeah, I can go back and pull it up, but generally, for the last couple of years, Wyland, which is a foundation that's out in California, they have what's called the Mayor's Challenge, where for all municipalities over a population of 10,000, they compete to conserve water, and they measure water conservation by looking at particular area zip codes. So when you go into their website, when you sign up for the challenge, each resident of the particular municipality that's 10,000 residents or more, they pretty much track, water conservation in that particular zip code. Since El Portal did not meet the 10,000 resident threshold, I reached out and called the director. His name is Steve Creech in California. And I said, well, look, what kinds of programs would you have for smaller municipalities that don't meet the population threshold? And what he advised was that they do have an individual challenge, but it's pretty much usually done on a community type basis for smaller groups or organizations that want to engage in resiliency and water conservation efforts. So I tailored the resolution to that end. So if this was something that was encouraged by the council, every resident or any resident that wanted to participate in the village would simply go to the Wyland website, would put in their information, the zip code, and they would track that particular individual's conservation efforts during the period of time of the challenge. The prizes are a lot smaller for the individuals, like shopping sprees or gift certificates, but it's more of a, as you can imagine, of a way of encouraging water conservation at the local and individual level. And so that's pretty much why I recommended maybe that's something that you can get folks starting to think about it in sort of a fun, participatory way in the village and encourage water conservation at the individual level.
Attorney Powell, I just had a quick question about this. I went on the website that, it's indicated here, the waterpledge.com website. Are they actually, when an individual signs up for the pledge, are they actually measuring their water conservation, or is it just the idea that if you pledge it, you will conserve, or is there some metric at the end?
I had the same question, Mr. Creech. And basically what he stated was that when you put your information in, they track it by the information you put in, and on a smaller scale at the individual level. So when you go to the website, I kind of went in and played with it a little bit, but I didn't go to the end since I don't live in the village, I live in the shores. It asks you for your information, your zip code, and whatnot. And according to what our conversation was, is that once you do that, they then track water consumption and usage based upon the information you provided.
Okay.
So
is there a feedback loop to the participants where you say, this month you've conserved this much water, or is it just for the organization to be able to say, through this program, all participants conserved this much water?
I didn't ask that question, but I would think it would be the latter.
Okay.
Given the scale of it, but that's something, I can always share his information, email it to the folks on the committee. I did ask him if he would be welcome to receiving calls from folks on the Resiliency Committee, because they do this not just for this particular initiative, they do it for a whole playing field of resiliency and conservation matters. So, I figured he'd be also a very good resource for the chair and anybody on the committee that may want to get some, networking and some input as to projects that they've seen work concerning resiliency and conservation.
Okay. Yeah, it would just be great if we had a program that residents signed up for, and then at the end of it, somehow we could see what the impact of the pledging was.
You're right, and I would imagine that's something that's part of it. But again, I can ask that specific question. I have his email and contact, and I did, like I said, encouraged the Mr. Vice Mayor Nickerson and anyone on the committee to reach out either by email or directly for those types of questions, because I didn't have all the questions in my mind. I just wanted to see how we could get our village and our residents participating on a smaller scale.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair, you may want to ask the other members if they have any questions also before we.
Yes, I know Courtney had a few questions.
Sorry, I don't really have too many questions. I guess my concern is this is a good general item, water conservation. I just question whether we're trying to shoehorn something in here or whether this particular opportunity has value and could provide, whether it's some instruction to the villagers or some reward for the village. I mean, it's kind of like mom and apple pie. Of course, it's good to do water conservation. I just don't know if this particular situation is something specifically beneficial to the village.
Yeah, my only, being a teacher, we have a lot of these organizations that try and get kids excited and motivated about doing it. And so they're very excited about it. I agree with what our Madam Chair said. It needs to be measurable, and that there is a reward, like that they see something for their efforts. My only concern is that the buy-in is going to be that it's easy. I would want to really delve in and talk to the person. So I would be one of those people interested in representing our task force, in talking to the person, asking the questions, just because I actually have to do those things for our school. So there's an organization called Dream in Green and the Fairchild Challenge, where we have to participate, and we actually have to collect data and then submit the data. And if it's very time consuming, then for sure teachers are like, hell no, I'm not doing it. If it's easy, then it'll be, an easier way. And I hope that since they have this contest, that it's something that they already are able to do. If we want to get a lot of people interested in what this task force is trying to do in regards to caring about, their homes and flooding and all of the global warming that's happening, and how we're trying to get things in place to take care of our residents. This is something to think about, or to find something on a smaller scale to say, hey, the Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force is encouraging you to participate in this, and then they would look into what we're doing and maybe have more of, gain more knowledge in that sense. So it might be a smaller, if it's an easy thing for them to do, to be introduced to this new task force, because I'm not sure that a lot of residents really know about what's happening and that this is actually formed. So that's what I wanted to say about those things.
Thanks, Maribel. I have kind of a similar concern, is that, we read the resolution, and my thought is, what happens next? So if we sign this resolution, and how do we inform the village residents that we want them to participate in this? How do we educate them on what water conservation is, and why that's important? And, to Maribel's point,
right,
what we're doing as a task force. And so I think that in conjunction, my thought is that if we pass a resolution like this, we need to have some other kind of communication or, distribution plan in conjunction with it. Otherwise, it's really just something we put on the books.
Yeah, if I may, Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. Attorney. So the way we usually do things is that we'll have ideas in order to do the communication and things like that, but a lot of times we have to pass the resolution first to just legally go through the steps to open up for that. So for example, if we would vote for this and pass this to the full council, and the full council passes it, from that point on, it's a various number of ideas that you could have to inform the residents. You know what I mean? We can do, for example, I know I'm the liaison to the council, but last night, Kristen did a wonderful job. I'm hoping that, at full council meetings where we get most of our audiences and things like that, that we, when I, God willing, the day I do become mayor, if everything goes, as it's going right now, I've already planned on having a resiliency and sustainability task force update at every full council meeting, to where a member from the task force will get up at every single full council meeting and do an update, do a report. The same way the mayor does a report, the attorney does a report, and the manager does a report. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to get the word out. But as far as the steps go legally, we have to first have the resolution to then put the other things in process. So.
Hi, this is Lynn Purcell. I have something to say. To me, I see a win-win situation here. I don't see any drawbacks. My thing is that in order to get the information out there, we can also have, I guess we can do little charities events, and we can have pizza parties. And at that pizza party, when the city opens up again, we can inform the resident then. Everybody is winning. Nobody is going to lose regardless. Even if they do, certain houses do get rewards. Everybody wins if we all play and participate in this together. And that will bring us not just together on this resilience of conserving water, even as a neighborhood, as a community.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We just have to, I guess what Omar is explaining to us is we have to decide that this is something important that we want to try to do, right? So,
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
I would like to ask, because what may have a lot to do with what happens today, I would like to ask the attorney if he knows if there is a time limit to sign up to this. Are we running out of time? And also, how long, once you sign up, is it a year-long process? How long does it last? Because we're talking about, which is, it's great that individuals are throwing out ideas, but if we're talking about, once everything opens back up, like how long does this last? Because things might not be open back up for another year.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, some of the questions we can always go back to. I know the mayor's challenge is for a time certain, but the individual challenge is like on the annual basis. So, one of the things I can do after this call that I'm hearing all the questions is go back and ask questions about, what resources are available for actually promoting on a smaller scale in a village our size. What is the individual tracking? I think that was a question that was asked. Like if I signed up at 320 whatever street, how are they going to be able to determine, what my baseline was and how much water did I save during the course of the applicable time period and those questions. So I'll reach back out and get those answers. In addition to that, I'm going to share with Vice Mayor Nickerson and the chair the direct contact information for the foundation, and maybe see if we can see other foundations that might be even closer or more in line with conservation efforts that are being done locally in Florida, as Ms. Foodstone just talked about earlier. But like I said, this just came up spontaneous because I was working on a resolution for a larger city, and I said, hey, this might be something that might be, of interest to the Resiliency Committee. But if I can segue for just one thing, because I do have to run, I was asked about a month or so ago to prepare a water shortage emergency ordinance that's tailored after the South Florida Water Management District. Councilperson Urban asked me to prepare that. I did that. So this may be something, Vice Mayor Nickerson, you may want to determine whether or not it should be workshopped here at the Resiliency Committee to take a look at it as maybe a future agenda item, and then give feedback and then have it brought back to the applicable council committee and then full council. But I did finish that, so that might be something you all can also take a look at and provide it for.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please
Madam
go
Chair.
ahead. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Mr. Gladwin, we do see your hand up, Hugh, and the chair. She can come to you soon. Let me ask this though, Mr. Attorney, with the resolution that Councilperson Urban wanted to have done, did he want that done for the full council meeting in September?
No, it was an ordinance. It's an ordinance. It's basically right now the village doesn't have any mechanism.
I got you.
To let's say you're not supposed to water on certain days. We don't really have the adopted mechanisms to enforce that within the village. So this ordinance would be the vehicle for making sure that we have an enforcement mechanism to force compliance with whatever restrictions are promulgated by the district. So it's an ordinance. It has to go through 2 readings.
I got you, yes.
I just suggested, now that we have this resiliency committee in place, this may be something that could be workshopped to bounce around ideas before it then goes to the code enforcement committee and then ultimately to the council for 2 readings.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful. Madam Chair, if I may, Madam Chair, make a suggestion.
Yes, I just real quickly would like to add, I agree. I think that'd be great, Attorney Powell, to workshop in this group. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. Vice Mayor Nixon, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I think so also, that would be wonderful. So today is Wednesday the 9th. I know that Councilperson, Attorney Powell, I know that the rest of the council more or less was in favor of this, was in favor of this resolution, but I do want to have this resolution come back to this task force because they did have questions to answer those questions. This is more to the task force, which we will get into this, which is picking our next meeting. Today is Wednesday the 9th. We usually do kind of every 2 weeks. If we did wait 2 weeks, it would be the 23rd Wednesday. That would be the day after the full council meeting.
Right. Well, I understand where you're going, but I think it's important, especially since this would be the first thing out the box that you all do, that we get all of your questions answered satisfactorily, so that once it's presented, the questions that were raised by Mr. Kirk, the chair, and the like, as to why do this, get these questions answered. And so to help me give you back the feedback, you feel free to email me whatever questions you may have after this, and then I'll reach out, I guess, between now and Monday and see if I can get those questions answered and feed them back to your task force.
Yeah, and Attorney Powell, this doesn't have too much to do with you, this part right here, but it would be my suggestion, as I said, we're going to get into this a little bit later, to, instead of 2 weeks, meet a week from today, the 16th. And that way, if Attorney Powell gets us the information, like the contact information from the individual in charge and things like that, if he can get that to us by like tomorrow or the next day, we will have a week to be able to contact him, get any questions out of the way, and still be able to bring this back and be comfortable with it going into the full council meeting, which is Tuesday the 22nd. We usually meet on Wednesdays. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. If you guys would be comfortable with meeting a different day, this is something to keep in mind. We don't have to decide right now. This is an agenda item where we can get to this later. We can meet another day before the full council meeting, you guys, to get comfortable with this item, to pass it, because I know the full council was kind of waiting for this item, this resolution.
Madam Chair, sorry. I address you, not the person speaking, my bad. Just a couple of things. I know Hugh's had his hand up for a while. I'm assuming it's on this item, so I don't want to get us too far off before we can get his input. But I also look at this, if the council wants to pass it, this is a benign thing. There's nothing really that's so negative about this that I think is so critical that we have to bless it, etc. I just question, from my perspective, whether this particular opportunity makes sense for our village. I understand how the attorney came up with it, having his interaction with other larger communities, and maybe given the directions, it makes more sense for them than for us. And perhaps, as Maribel said earlier, we go with something that is more appropriate for our size, etc. But I don't think we have to rush and try and schedule our meetings to get our committee to approve something as benign as apple pie. It's my 2 cents.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may, I agree, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, and then I'd like to give Mr. Gladwin a chance to speak as well.
Of course. I agree with what Mr. Kirk is saying. I just know that this is, we did make this is an official task force that did come through the council. And, as long as I'm here, you guys will get your due respect. And I do want you guys, I mean, it is, you know, able for you guys to be comfortable with this. And those are questions that can be answered that we brought up. Those are all valid questions. I think we can get those questions answered. Madam Chair, the floor is yours for Mr. Glad.
Thank you, Mr. Gladwell.
Hi. Yeah, I'm jumping in here very quickly just because Kristen isn't here. But I guess an opinion of mine is I just think an item like this, if it takes up a lot of time of the task force right now, you know, you have to consider whether it's worth spending that time, you know, or maybe just the council can pass it initially. I think Mr. Kirk just said that. But the other thing is this whole issue of water quality, water conservation is moving very fast because of the problem with Biscayne Bay and the fish kill. And people are basically pushing things out to us. So right now, on this subject, we should be accepting people who are actively wanting to help us work on this problem, this issue, rather than, you know, applying for funds for it. In particular, the FIU, FIU in the county, I think FIU was the sponsor, but they had a workshop on water conservation and water quality, and Kristen was one of the panelists. That's moving forward. They would like to help us do stuff. The Resiliency Committee, you know, has already gotten a grant to work with the Little River Conservation thing, and that's one thing with that. And the final thing is on King Tide Day, October 17th. On that day, the county and FIU has hundreds of high school and college students fanning out in all the areas where water's coming up from the aquifer with instruments to measure what's going on. So Kristen's been talking to them about having some of that instrumentation come into El Portal in the lower levels, because that allows us to see, you know, what the water flow is through the aquifer, how much water is sort of being wasted up and down, how much pollution is being generated from septic tanks and all that kind of stuff. So I just think, you know, we have to be open to these things as much as possible. And as we learn from those, I would suggest, then you guys are going to be in a better position to, you know, put a specific proposal out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gladwin. So as a kind of grammatical thing, Attorney Powell, I just wanted to ask, before this goes any further, if you look at page 2, section 2, the actual resolution is missing language saying what the village will do. So it says that the village of El Portal, the Wayland Water Conservation Pledge, and encourages resident involvement. We need, you know, adopts, enters into, accept, something like that, just to, before I think we can sign off on this. And so having kind of discussed this, do we think we want to vote on this today, or push it back and schedule a meeting a week from now, as Vice Mayor Nicholson suggested?
My two cents, I don't think this this doesn't make sense for our particular municipality. I would rather look for something that is tailored more to us. And also, I don't see the urgency in jumping on this one again for us right now, because I don't think we have a way to advertise it. I don't think we have a way to really get people involved and understand what we're doing. If the council wants to do it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it's worth our effort to do something like this right now without having it really thought through. That's my 2 cents.
And on that same line, Courtney, my concern would be that we found something. I would like to do something, but my concern would be that we find something, you know, down the road in 6 months that is better, but we're kind of already going along the line with this one. So I certainly, I tend to agree with what you're saying.
What I would support you both in your opinion. The question that I was going to send to Council Powell was going to be asking if this is a revolving opportunity, so that if we do put it off in 6 months with better advertising and better buy-in with everything, then that might be a better time to do it. I'm not against something like this because it's a good thing to get people interested. But that would be another thing too. You know, is it a revolving opportunity?
And again, I'm not against something like this. I just don't think this particular one is appropriate for us.
I think some of the questions that we asked kind of influence whether I think, I'm not sure if this is appropriate for us. And I think
that's me too. That's
right.
Me too.
I think we need a couple, some answers to some of those questions. So if there's no deadline on this, perhaps it makes sense to let Attorney Powell go back and connect us to the questions answered, and we don't make a vote in time for this general council meeting, and just push it back to the next one where we can reevaluate after we have a few more facts.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Attorney Powell, do we know that if we, or are you not sure if we hold this off to the October full council meeting, which is the end of October, can we still be a part of this program?
Yeah, these are all questions I'm going to ask. I'm writing, I've got about 6 of them so far. So that I'll get the answers as quickly as I can and more of the answers to you. The sentiment is, you know, if you're going to encourage it or adopt it, you know, first make sure it's something that's suited for the village, and then second, make sure that when it gets rolled out, that it's something that folks can get excited about and participate and be able to track what they're doing. So I'm going to get those questions answered and get back as quickly as I can.
Appreciate that, Attorney Powell. Madam Chair, my suggestion was simply, the way I see we have, I think only one choice. Madam Chair, I think that we should, when we get to it, we should strongly consider having our meeting a week from today instead of 2 weeks from today. I think that not only for this topic, I think that it should. I think that we might even want to make it a practice to have a meeting prior to the full council meeting. There might be things that we find that we discuss that we want to bring up at the full council meeting. So it might be good to meet before the full council meeting instead of meeting the day after the full council meeting. I'm not sure. I think that from the questions that were asked, I think they could be answered pretty quickly. But the problem is that we just don't meet. If we stick to our 2 weeks, we won't meet again. So we can't do it not in sunshine, so we just won't be able to discuss it. I mean, the answers might come in, you know, Friday, Monday. It might be good to go, but we just don't meet again before the full council meeting. So it's just sitting out there, just chilling for no reason, when we could act on it. That's my only concern, Madam Chair. But you guys are the task force, Madam Chair. Ultimately, it's up to the 4 members that are on here to decide, Madam Chair.
I think that it makes sense in either case to move this to the next agenda. And I think the question is whether or not we'll bump this to our next meeting. And I think the question is then whether or not we meet in a week so that we can get it in before the next council meeting, as you suggested, or not. I'm fine with meeting it in a week so that we can get it, the questions looked at, but I'm not sure what everyone else's schedule looks like.
I can make it happen, provided that, this is what we're really just going to be discussing to make a decision whether we're going to support it for the next council meeting. And maybe that's just our date. It's always the Wednesday before the monthly council meeting. That's our designated time to meet.
Member Purcell or Kurt, do you have any thoughts on that, on whether we want to meet in a week or go ahead and just?
Well, I would like us to be a little bit more laser focused and targeted on our meetings, just to knock stuff off. So if we have fewer items that we can knock off, that would be more desirable.
So you would be in favor of meeting in a week because there's fewer items, or you'd rather?
I'd prefer to keep this to monthly, but I understand we're starting off and we need to kind of get some traction. So with that, I'll do whatever we need to do to get the traction going. I do agree with Omar's statement that, or somebody's statement, that makes sense for us to meet the week before Village Council. The problem is, since we're doing all this stuff and we have sunshine restrictions, we really have to have stuff discussed the meeting before that meeting so that we can finalize it at that meeting and it can then go to council. So, you know, if we back ourselves into it, it's a longer delay, that's all. But I'll do whatever we need. Fine, I can make availability.
I'm in favor of it. So if we have to meet to make a decision on this here, then I'll be more than happy.
Madam Chair, if I may, very quickly. I know the attorney has to go also. Madam Chair, all right, so far we've met the 28th, we met July 28th, which was our first meeting. Then we turned around and met August 5th, which was the next week, that was a week later. And then we turned around and met August 26th, which were 2 meetings in the same month. So I think we're pretty much on schedule. We're meeting today is the 9th. If we meet next week, the 16th, we don't have to meet again until October 7th. And we'll still have like 2 meetings per month, which is what we had in August. I'm not sure if that's what you guys wanted to keep up.
That seems, that seems like a long time to go from now, having only addressed this one water conservation resolution. I mean, I'm looking up as we're speaking what the deadline is on the mywaterpledge.com, because if there's no urgency to it and it's something that we can jump into at any time, maybe it just makes sense to have our next meeting in 2 weeks that allows us to address more than just the water conservation pledge. Because I know, I was planning on introducing a few things related to fertilizer that I don't have finalized yet. And I would hate to have one meeting addressing one issue and then we don't see each other again for almost another month. So yeah, I'm looking it up as we speak, but I would suggest, unless people feel strongly, us missing the deadline to get this in front of the full village council and just have it in front of them for the next one if it is something that we decide we want to move forward with.
Madam Chair, I have really, it's neither here nor there. Madam Chair, the only thing the problem is that we don't know, right? So the problem is that we have yet to know if this is a time sensitive issue or not. Attorney Policy is going to go back and get those answers, and that's the only issue. If we knew that, then this wouldn't be an issue. That's the only issue.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can't just pull it up on their website as we're doing this. Okay. I think at this point we just need to maybe do a quick vote on what we want to do. As I'm pulling this up.
Madam Chair, I think that it seems that the task force, Madam Chair, is more inclined to wait 2 weeks for the meeting. And I think that's what you guys should just stick with.
Sorry, guys, for just parachuting in. Are we still talking about the Waylands?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
we are. So, Kristen, just as a quick update, we were deciding whether or not to have a meeting a week from now to address this when Attorney Powell can come back with some of the, we had asked a number of questions about the deliverables and the community involvement, and he's going to come back to us with some of those questions. And we were deciding whether or not to have a meeting a week from now or to go ahead and just wait to our regular next meeting, which would be in 2 weeks. So I think the consensus seems to be that, as Vice Mayor Nickerson just said, I think the consensus seems to be that we'll just stay on our regularly scheduled meeting in 2 weeks and address those questions at that time, and then it will be put in front of not the village council meeting a week from now, but the next month, so the October village council meeting. Does everyone agree with that? We will have our next meeting in 2 weeks, and this issue, should we choose to approve it, would go in front of the village council for the October general meeting.
Yeah, as long as
I'm okay with that. It's fine.
Okay.
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Purcell?
one thing we
Yes,
might
go ahead, Greg.
sorry. One thing we might want to do is just try and have kind of a more standing schedule like the council and committees do. And if I read things right and Wednesdays are good for us, then we probably want to make sure one of our meetings is the council meets on the 4th Tuesday. Is that correct? So make sure ours is on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of the month, and just say that's what we go with. That way we're just confirming each time that works for us, and it gives us opportunity to discuss things, work on it, and make sure it gets to the council if it's something urgent. Just a suggestion as we're talking about dates and stuff.
I would fully agree with that suggestion. Any other council members? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Madam Chair, that sounds good to me. Attorney Powell, it looks like we're going to discuss this in a couple of weeks. Please get back to us as far as if there is a time limit and all of those other questions, as soon as possible. Attorney Powell has emailed me the contact information for the gentleman. I will email that out before this meeting is over. I will send you guys all that type of stuff. Madam Chair, you may want to see if Attorney Powell has any last words, and if anybody else has any questions.
Yes, Attorney Powell.
Well, thank you for allowing me to participate. The last comment is regarding the water plan ordinance that I mentioned before. Maybe Vice Mayor Nickerson can reach out to Councilperson Urban to see whether or not this is something he wants to go through the Resiliency Committee first.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Nickerson, if you could do that, that would be wonderful. That's something I really appreciate you bringing it to our attention, Attorney Powell, because that's something I feel very strongly should be brought in front of us, and that's something that I work on in my regular job, and I'd love to take a look at that
Okay.
prior to that going to council. So,
Attorney Powell, if you would, Attorney Powell, I'll either have you or let the new interim village clerk go ahead and do that. We don't want to, have me and Urban we don't want anybody seeing any communication off of something that we're going to end up voting for sooner or later. So,
well, you're not really discussing it. That's fine. I'll take care of it. I'll do it.
Appreciate it.
Right. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Attorney Powell. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
You guys have a good rest of the day. Bye.
thank you.
All right.
All right. So now that we have Kristen back, I think we can actually jump right to agenda item H4.
So H4.
Oh no, H4 is not Kristen's. Yes, H4 is the document, Vice Mayor Nickerson, that you, I believe, are putting together for us after our discussion last meeting on the structure of the task force, voting process, the roles of the chair, vice chair, etc.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen right here for a second. So this right here, Madam Chair, is something that you guys kind of had, questions about. I put, what you brought, Madam Chair, what the Vice Chair brought as far as your roles and responsibilities, I put those under the task force chair and vice chair. This is not how it's going to end up looking in the end. It'll be formatted and things like that. This is going to be definitely a working document. Everything, Madam Chair, that you had under your list, I put here under your list. Everything that the vice chair had, I put there. There were a couple of things I remember, if you guys remember that the vice chair said, or she had in her list, Vice Chair Fruitstone, that you guys felt that was more encompassing of the entire committee as a whole. Those are up here. I took those 4 from her that you guys felt was more part of the entire committee or the entire task force as a whole. I put those up there. This is not something you, Madam Chair, that we're going to vote on today. So this is something that you guys will be taking and going through it and making your suggestions and things like that. As far as the voting goes, we spoke about these things last time. I said the Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force consists of 5 voting members, which are, this I can't see, 5 voting members, which are the 5 members who were officially appointed to the task force. You 5 are the 5 voting members. You guys were the ones appointed to the task force by the 5 sitting members of the El Portal Council. You guys are the only 5. We discussed that last time. I still have that correct? You 5 are the only 5 that have voting capability.
I believe that's true.
Yes, I believe that's true.
We discussed that last time. This also we discussed. Well, the task force is allowed up to 25 members. That's in the resolution. Additional task force members beyond the 5 council-appointed voting members must be voted in by the 5 voting members of the task force with a 3 out of 5 approval vote with a quorum, minimum 3 voting members present. I put an example here. If there is a quorum of only 3 members, all 3 members must vote unanimously to approve an additional non-voting task force member. I believe Member Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's something that I know that you wanted in.
Yeah, I think, yes, sorry. Thank you, Omar. That's something I definitely wanted. The other thing is, aside from formatting stuff, which I know you mentioned, do we want to explicitly state that other task force members, aside from the assigned 5, will be contributing members but not voting members?
I can say that. I can say that they're going to be contributing but not voting. I put here that, the first one, it says it consists of 5 voting members, which are the 5 members who were officially appointed to the task force by the 5 sitting members of the El Portal Council. Do you want me to add to that and make it stronger?
Yeah, I think we just need to clean it and make it explicit. I'm more than happy to take an attempt. I don't know, you're not on the task force, so I don't know if I can provide you some feedback and then you can do work on it, or whether that violates sunshine or not.
Yeah, of course. Of course you can provide me feedback and I can work on it. Also, you guys remember this though. All of you guys are getting this, right? So you guys will be taking this and then we'll be meeting in 2 weeks. Kind of like how we did when we did the Kristen's storm flood project. Storm flood recommendations. You guys can take this back. You guys can get your own ideas, and then we can do it in sunshine. The next meeting, you guys can say, "Oh, I thought this should say this. Or I thought this should have said that." We can do it that way.
Yeah, just to avoid double work, I would offer / suggest that I kind of put it in the same kind of format that we had the other documents, so we're consistent with all our paperwork, and kind of write it up. I can send it to you, Omar. You can tweak, etc., and then maybe you can distribute to us so that we can all review the same version of it and come into the next meeting with tweaks, discussion, corrections, whatever term you'd like to have.
Yeah, so what I can do is, if you take it, do your changes, get it back to me. And what I will do is, because the way I can do that is I will have, now that we have an interim clerk, I will have the next meeting. I can advertise it whenever. Once I advertise it, then I can send out everything. So what I'll do is I'll have that meeting advertised like a week in advance and then send everything out. If you guys have more things that come up within that week that you want added to the agenda, then I can just send you guys those documents as you guys, as you guys have them. And then what will happen is once we have the meeting, the day of the meeting, because it will be advertised, and I'll get the agenda out, I will get the documents out. Within that week, if you let's say if Chair Carpenter has something about fertilizer that she has and she finalized and she wants, I'll send that to you guys. But then when we get in the meeting, when we get to the part where we approve the agenda, what we'll do is we'll add that to the agenda at that particular time. We're kind of walking a fine line there, but I think we're good.
So I guess for the chair, are you okay with me taking what Omar has presented here, putting it in the same format, as well as doing some phraseology and tweaking and stuff like that? Or would you like to leave it in this format, do the discussion first, and then at the very end do phrasing and formatting and other things?
I think the first plan is the best, since you did, you put our last document in a really nice format. If you could do that again, send it all out, and then line item it.
I'm so sorry you've been gone for so long. Yes, I agree with the chairperson, Madam Chair, and I would second that as well. Format it.
Great.
All right,
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Courtney, tell me if I have this right. This one right here, because this one right here was to approve, to bring on additional task force member. This right here was to approve an agenda item.
Absolutely correct. From my perspective, again, this is something where I believe when it comes in a more completed format, there may be discussion. I mean, we may say, hey, no, I want to have whatever. But from my comments from last meeting, yes, you did capture that correctly.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's updated from at least last meeting, right? As far as the absences, you guys, this is something that you guys we should discuss right now. So when Member Kirk takes this back and starts to format it and formalize the way he figures or the way he wants to, that this all is done. So I have for absences, the five voting members of the Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force are allowed no more than 3 consecutive absences from the task force board meetings. Once the 4th consecutive absence is threshold. So you guys have choices down here. I don't know if you guys want to make it 3 consecutive absences. That kind of sounds pretty good for me. It's up to you guys. You guys are the board. So I have right here, you guys have a choice. You guys can do something like 3 consecutive absences equals automatic removal, or you guys can vote to remove somebody out. Or you guys can do 3 consecutive absences, and then the 4th consecutive one is automatic removal, or you guys can vote the individual out. You guys can do 3 consecutive absences and then no more absences allowed for the remainder of the calendar year, or automatically removal, or you can vote somebody out. Also, will there be a warning process of communication through the task force liaison before we get to that point? Those are the type of questions you guys have to ask yourselves, you guys.
Vice Mayor, instead of a removal or warning or vote based on consecutive absences, could we do total absences?
I think we should do both, by the way. I think there's a minimum number that if you miss X number in a row, that's a big problem. And if you're only there for, every 4th one or every 3rd one,
right. That was my concern.
Right? To be a core voting member.
Yeah, the only reason I put 3 consecutive because I don't know if you guys remember, but we briefly discussed that at the last meeting. It was really brief, and I said, you guys.
For that, Omar, you're.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the only reason why I put 3 consecutive. But like I said, I think you guys need to. So are you saying right now that you guys just make it clear as far as the language that Member Kirk is going to use for the absences, and Madam Chair, you might want to get Member McLean, Member Purcell, and Vice Chair Fruitstone if they have any comments on the absences.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm, because we're writing rules that allow us to have pretty flexible voting rules as long as there are 3 of the 5 of us present, and also recognizing that sometimes things happen, right? Like I would hate for someone to wind up having to fly out of town to take care of a sick relative or whatever and have that interrupt their service to the committee if they really want to be on the committee. I personally would rather have language that's a little bit more flexible in here. So something about the language of unexcused or unexplained, or I don't know what, what is the best phrasing for that. But I think the point is that, if people want to participate, but something comes up and they are outside, they are falling outside the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law, I'd like for us to be able to accommodate that.
I agree, Kristen. I like if we, in terms of the consecutive language, I like the fact that you would have to be voted out and not automatically removed, so that there could be a discussion about why, the 4th consecutive meeting was missed, and then we could decide as a committee whether or not that was excused.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just to continue to have Member Kurt write the notes down, since he's going to be formatting this. So, Member McLean and yourself, Madam Chair, were you saying that you agree with 3 unexcused consecutive absences or 3 unexcused absences in the calendar year?
I was proposing consecutive absences and then a vote so that we can decide whether or not the 4th one is good cause or not. But I'm not sure what Kristen was proposing, whether you would like them to be, whether you want to focus on excused or unexcused.
Kristen, you got to unmute yourself.
You're muted.
So, I'm thinking specifically about the situation, like I'm just thinking about we have a neighbor here in the village who had to fly to Detroit, has had to fly to Detroit on and off all year because her brother is in a medical distress. So, I just want to avoid rules that automatically kick someone off if they have some kind of crisis like that going on. Whether or not it's consecutive or not consecutive, I think for me, the difference is, it has to do with consecutive, I guess. But that
is there a way of saying missed meetings after a certain time, or 3 meetings within 6 months? Is that something better, Kristen? Like to give it a broader, I don't know.
So
I understand what you're saying, but I can't think. I would support it being more flexible as well. Though, I mean, I'm actually attending it right now in my car because I had to drive my daughter to ballet class. So
if I can make a suggestion, and forgetting the numbers for a moment, because we can all think about, whether it should be 2 absences or 7 absences or whatever. We can talk about that. How about if we do something that is kind of leans towards getting rid of somebody but doesn't require it? So, for example, if we did after 3 consecutive absences, they can be removed by a majority of the council of the task force. After 6 total absences in the year, they can be retained by a majority vote of the task force. So something so that it's not a requirement that if we say, hey, look, yes, Kristen's been sending emails and doing all this crap, but she can't attend because she's out in Oregon helping her family. We get that. But on the other hand, I haven't been to a meeting in 6 months. You guys should be able to get rid of me.
Yeah.
Should something be put like on a case by case, or I don't know, something like that? Like,
I think whatever number we pick, if we just make it a vote that gives the person an opportunity to explain what's going on, and it can be a little bit more, spirit of the law instead of letter of the law, as Kristen said. And I think that's important to remember as well. Once we, are through the other side of this pandemic, however long that will take, presumably we will return to in-person meetings, and that will make something like traveling to Detroit more difficult.
Yeah, and also just with people's work schedules, I'm not sure
Right.
exactly how many people are going to have to travel to
At
from
3:30.
office.
Yeah.
And also I want to invite Lynn. We haven't heard from you yet, Lynn. Do you have any feedback that you want to? I feel like I should back up and just say hello to you, since I haven't had a chance to talk to you in person, but just want to
Yeah, I
invite
know.
you.
Right. I spoke earlier, but you were going. But
Okay.
anyway, I had a crisis myself during that time when I missed 2 of your meetings, because I was at the first one, but I just couldn't get on with you all on, I guess, I don't know if it's Facebook or whatever. So I had to look at you from a different, I use different technology. But anyway, I had also missed out because my uncle was deceased. I had to go bury my uncle. So I don't know how this would go. I'm saying, like you say, it would be up to a vote, and like you said, it would be to me by, each person or whatever, however you all want to do that. But I feel that it should be, counted as a vote. And then, that's how you all should look at it. If they get voted out, and then they have, if it's excusable, then you can retain them.
Okay, I'll take, I basically have heard that this should be voted, that there's going to be some number that we can change that at the next meeting, whatever. But for the content of it, I'll just take it as it needs to be voted. And maybe I'll either put 1 or 2 different proposals out there for us to look at next week or next meeting. And we as a group can decide A or B, or maybe even come up with a third, if that's okay with you guys.
Courtney, I would also add, I liked your original point about doing both. So we have, X number of consecutive absences we vote, and additionally, no more than X number in a calendar year.
Okay.
And then a vote on that too, I guess, if we just want to, give everyone the option.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead,
I don't know, I don't know how you guys, I don't know how large you want to eventually make this document. This is just one part. This feels, like I said, the way I kind of see it is like, it could be like a working document. So eventually this whole thing could end up as the task force's quote unquote charter. So, so you guys might want to start to, or somebody, on the task force just might want to start to think about maybe a introduction paragraph or some type of mission statement that you want to put at the very top. And the roles and responsibilities could be the the first section of, so it just depends on how you guys want to take this, you guys. I just think it could be a working document that can grow over time.
Vice Mayor, given that this was, we're basically creating our own policy, but we were created by the village council, is this something that when we're finished needs to be approved by the village council, or is it just an internal document?
It's an internal document.
And on that same note, I think we probably also need to put some kind of voting requirement for amending this charter if we're turning it into a charter, so that down the road, if the number of people change or if there's some material advancement in the task force, we have the ability to change it, and that's written in as to how many votes we need to change it.
Like I said, it's up to you guys. You guys don't have to make it that way. That would, it's just something that can be that way. Like, for example, you guys are right now tackling the roles and responsibilities, and then, it might just sit to the side for a few months, and then somebody else might say, you guys know what we need to tackle next? Let's tackle this. You guys bring this document back out, and you guys add to it, and it could just work like that. I think it would be a good document to work.
I would support what Omar, Vice Mayor Omar Nickerson is proposing. I don't think we have to actually go ahead and hash out an entire charter right now, but I do believe that it needs to be something like that, where it is, where there's an opportunity for amendment, something like, each year or each well, since it's starting, I would recommend sooner than later that this charter is reviewed and be given the opportunity for an amendment. And it's actually creating our road plan for people after us. So I completely support this, but I in the spirit of time also, I support that this is what we have right now, and then we revisit this again. The severity of us still in our, there are 3 named storms currently swirling, and I think we've got to get a couple more things down. Obviously, we're going into the Greek alphabet pretty soon. So I think this is a great start, and we should just table it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I agree. I think in the spirit of time, Courtney, thank you so much for volunteering to put this in a specific format. I think we should just keep discussing it as we move forward and move this to the next agenda item as well.
Okay.
Thank you all. Okay, moving on to agenda item H5. I think this is where we turn to you, Kristen. Oh, you're muted.
Move everything around on my screen in order to unmute myself because I'm looking at documents. Okay, so so there's a couple of things that are related here. So there's a memo that I sent over to Omar yesterday that just got attached right before the meeting. So you guys haven't had a chance to fully take it on board, but and I'm going to actually bring it up and share my screen just so that I can refer to it. I'm going to just cover the big bullets. But basically, this is a memo that that Hugh and Adam and I worked on. That's really been driven by Hugh's pretty deep experience around a couple of the major funding programs and resilience programs that the village has access to through the county and state and federal level. And I think I'm going to let Hugh talk about it in just a second. So I just want to set the table with the major points. So let me just share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see it.
Very quickly, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Member McLean, I know that Hugh sent me, emailed me 2 things. Are these what you're sharing now? Hugh, is this what you sent me? Because I don't want to not share it for him if it's a different document. I don't know what he sent me.
I think you're muted, Mr. Gladwin.
Right when the meeting was started, he sent me, he just emailed me, he emailed me 2 different documents.
Are those some of the documents that wound up in your mailing that are about the different county programs?
I have one that says LMS project priority worksheet.
Well, hold on. Let me go back because I have everything open here in my Google Docs. So,
Mr. Gladman, for whatever reason, I don't think we can hear you.
Right.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
This was a PD document, final LRC letter to the committee. At least that.
Yeah, those are 2 documents. If I talk, I'll screen share them. I just sent them to Omar because at a past meeting I wasn't able to do screen sharing and he had to have them to pull up. But you don't need them right now.
Okay, so let's go back.
However, could I just say another quick thing, which is that for what I say, the manager's report is very relevant. I'm just wondering if there's, I guess it would be too difficult to email that to everybody right now, but.
Well, we all got it, right? It's I actually have it in, oh no, Omar, you shared it, right?
We just received it, but
Did he just share it? I haven't seen my email.
You guys, right now, I'm about to email you guys Hugh's 2 documents, and I'm going to email the manager stuff, and I'm going to email the attorney contact with the Wayland guy while you guys are talking about this right now.
All right, so this document still sets up this whole conversation. So let me try to set the table, and then we can talk to Hugh a little bit about the specifics. So now that we're, apropos of Maribel's observation that we are, you know, looking at name storms right now spinning around in the ocean, and the fact that we're over our first big deliverable, which is the flood plan. I think that Madam Chair's idea to table the Wayland project is really a good one, because I think that we have to decide for ourselves what our next chunk of work is going to be, like how we're going to define what we want to focus on next and how we want to apply our energy. So taking off my committee hat for a minute and just kind of stepping over into the Little River side of things. Hugh and Adam and I have been working on river issues together, but Hugh in particular has been working on resilience issues for the county for a really long time. And he has a much more comprehensive and structured idea about like how what we do can support the village, and how we can strategically do the most to help the village strategically, and also how this can then fit into some of the other things that are going on the community side of things. So basically, this memo, which you guys can read in full at your leisure, was a way of us laying out these ideas about what we think we might want to consider as a resilience task force in terms of how we can strategically amplify, in particularly how we can backstop Christia around two very particular programs that are mission critical to our long-term resilience goals for the village. So the first is called the Local Mitigation Strategy, the LMS program, and the second one is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And I'm going to ask you to talk more specifically about those. But basically, this is not like us getting a $10,000 grant for sandbags. This is us getting a $500,000 grant to complete septic to sewer, or to address seawall and flooding issues, or to do, you know, riverbank restoration, or whatever the village decides it wants to undertake. But these two, right now, I think we've got $4 million in projects out right now, specifically for septic to sewer under these, I think under LMS, right, Hugh? The $4 million grant?
No, those are actually for pumps to fit in with the drainage changes in the river.
Got it. But it is the LMS. These are LMS applications that we're talking about.
Yeah, and actually HGMP and LMS are the same thing, basically.
Okay. So basically, there are some really big infrastructure projects for a village of our size that are out there right now in proposal form. And in order for us to qualify as a village to get the funds, and in some cases they're matching funds. Hold on one second. In some cases they're matching funds. And in some cases they're outright like funding opportunities. In order for us to keep those applications alive, there are certain things that we have to do. Like, for instance, we have to show up, somebody from the village has to show up at quarterly meetings where these projects are discussed. And there's also a pretty tedious online component of updating materials related to these proposals. So it requires, like right now it's not as onerous because all this is happening online in the same way that we're meeting online. But once we get back to in-person meetings, it takes a ton of time, and right now it's almost all falling on Christia. And so as an official entity of the village, one of the things that we can do is that we can decide, we can look at this whole batch of things that have to be done overall, and we can decide that part of what we want to take on in the official business of this committee is actually supplementing and helping with these types of programs, right? So feeding into the village's effort to make sure that we are meeting all these criteria. And then also, the other thing is that on an individual basis, like two of us can't do this, but one of us can do it, or all of us can do it, right, Omar? Like individually, like we could deputize one person on this committee to go out and be the liaison to other resilience committees. And we can deputize another person to go help Christia specifically with a particular activity, and we can deputize another person to do grant research. Like we can deputize individual people in this committee to officially undertake some of this work, but we can't do two of us cannot be doing that at the same time. So we have to be strategic about it. Or alternately, on a personal basis, like, so for instance, on a personal basis, I am being the bridge between the Little River Conservancy and, you know, like there are things that I can take from here and I can take into the Conservancy and I can work on them over here and bring them back. Or for instance, Hugh is our unofficial, Hugh, because he's not a member of the committee, can actually do more for us as an advisor than he might be able to do if he was, you know, on the committee because of our requirements for Sunshine. So anyway, we have some things to work through, but what we want to put forward is this, or we want the committee to really think about is, you know, how we choose to apply the very, you know, we have limited bandwidth, both us and Christia and Robert Ruano and the Village Council, we all have limited bandwidth. So how can this committee, in conceiving of itself, be additive in a way that really, really amplifies some very meaningful resilience efforts that will help the whole village? So that's basically that's basically the kind of, in a nutshell, what this memo is about. And so to Elizabeth's point earlier about deferring specific commitments to things like Wayland, which is very worthy, I think we want to actually take some time to decide how we want to strategically apply ourselves before we then figure out what programs are going to fall under that effort, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a particular suggestion of how the task force specifically could support the funding sources, the maintenance of them, updating statuses, whatever it is? Do you have a particular approach or suggestion that you would like to recommend?
So we have in this document a couple of suggestions, but I do want to make, I just want to make something clear for the record before we really get into the weeds, because Hugh has a lot of the answers to the specifics as we start to pull this apart. But the one thing I want to say is that this is what, you know, one of the things that we're recommending from the Conservancy, but I want to make sure that the committee knows that we within the confines of the committee have the ability to make, to put other things on our plate as well, or to define additional priorities. So Claudia, for instance, really wants us to build relationships with other resilience committees in the area, and that actually also can potentially bring benefit to the village, because we could get sandbag help from Miami Beach, and we could get, you know, storm help from the shores or from Biscayne Park or from North Miami. Like, I'm sure, I don't know if the chief is on, but we have a history of collaborating with other municipalities around actual storm events. So we don't want to, that may be something we also want to put into our, kind of on our drawing board. So this is just one part of it, but this is because there's so much money involved, and because the, you know, the risk of what we would lose if we don't actually support these types of, like, just the nuts and bolts of these projects is pretty significant. So in terms of like how we can be strategic in supporting these, that's why we wanted to raise it. So Courtney, to your question, on the bottom of this memo, there's 4 possible things that we've suggested as things that we might want to think about. So the first is attending these LMS meetings, which are quarterly, as an official resiliency task force representative, in addition to Christia. And there's some language explaining why that's a good thing to do. Logging in as a task force member to help the village keep up with the tedious paperwork related to these initiatives, freeing up Christia to do other things. One thing specifically, since we have some legal chops on this task force, is that we can consider reviewing contracts, particularly around some of the things having to do with our contracts around emergency management, and then doing the research to find further funding opportunities. And the reason, I know Hugh, I'm gonna ask you to talk about this for a second, but we have in our next agenda item, funding opportunities. And the other thing, the reason that these two things are interrelated is that, you know, one of the things that we have on our agenda is the CPI Funding Opportunity, which is a $10,000 to $60,000 grant opportunity for resilience, mitigation, access. There's a bunch of things that covered there. If we're successful in getting that money, getting those monies can be applied as a match for some of these bigger monies. So some of these bigger monies require us to match. So even if we're working on things that are smaller scale, that are more immediate, it still has a tangible impact on these bigger funding projects. So, you know, so like going after and researching grants that we can get Mr. Ruano and the village to work on, that those also have an impact. So there's a bunch of things we could be doing here. And then there are other ideas. So I think I just want to encourage us to have a holistic conversation about like what we want to take up next. So that's my preamble. And Madam Chair, I don't know if you want to invite Hugh to talk a little bit to amplify what I just talked about, or if we want to do some questions first, or I don't know if Omar has any feedback on any of that, but.
Yeah, Mr. Gladwin, if you have something to add, we'd love to have your input as well.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, there. The first place, there are a bunch of things that are in the document that Kristen is talking about. So I guess first I'll just say, you know, kind of what we're asking here is that, you know, so far, as you guys know, you're a collective body that meets in the sunshine together. You vote on things and so on. But you're also, in some sense, officials of the village in terms of mitigation. You know, Omar might want to put it slightly differently, but for example, members of the village council, you know, can't meet off the council meeting and work on, you know, say flood planning for the Little River together. But an individual member of the village council can go to the planning meetings that have been taking place over the past 3 years. And in fact, you know, for example, the chairman of the Public Works Committee should have been at those meetings, but he wasn't able to and during a lot of that process. You can go to those meetings. There are public meetings.
Kristen, we can still see your screen just to the extent that you're pulling something up.
Am I pulling something up?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't pulled anything up yet.
That was me. That was me being tired at the end of the day. Sorry.
Okay.
I forgot that I'm controlling.
Just wanted to make sure.
No. It's good. I'm glad I didn't pick it up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing, there's a bunch of different things you can do in planning things and so on. The coordination with the County Office of Resilience is incredibly important. I think that's why the office has already reached out to the task force because, for example, the City of Miami Beach and the City of Miami have their own resilience officers with some staff, but you guys are in a way the equivalent for El Portal. You know, you don't have a staff. In some sense, you could consider me to be a staff and you consider Adam, but you know, you do, this is a separate function that you have individually. Okay, having said that, you know, if you read the document Kristen sent, you'll get a kind of better context for it. But what I want to do now is talk about the local mitigation strategy, if that's okay. Kind of give a little quick background and what some of the issues are.
The only thing I might interject, Mr. Gladwin, is because we're just seeing this document and I haven't had a chance to review the document we got from the manager either. Do we need to have seen those documents to animate the discussion? You know, the summary.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
And I don't really have time. I mean, I'll say very briefly what El Pertel's done, and I don't think I'll contradict what the manager says, but so to give a quick background, basically the way all this mitigation funding works, there are all different programs that exist, but the main money that's out there for, you know, particularly structural mitigation, you know, seawalls, sewer, hardening buildings, all that kind of mitigation money comes through, essentially comes from FEMA through the Hurricane Mitigation Grant Program. And the problem with this money is there's a lot of it. It comes all of a sudden, and decisions have to be made quickly to spend it. The money comes down because by federal law, when there's a disaster, 15% of the total cost of disaster relief money that FEMA puts out is then supposed to be issued afterwards as mitigation money. So for example, in Hurricane Irma, FEMA put out $1 billion to Miami-Dade County for damages. You know, unfortunately, a lot of that money still hasn't gotten from Tallahassee down here, but all of FEMA money, you know, for disasters goes to the state, and then the state is supposed to distribute it to the counties. So theoretically, there should have been 150, I'm sorry, of the billion, 150 million should have gone to Miami-Dade County. We, in fact, we're only allowed to access half of that, and some of it's still out. So, you know, this is the way it's been going on for like 30 years now or so. And the problem is suddenly all this money comes into the system. You know, a lot of times counties in the past and even now are like totally unprepared for it. So after Hurricane Andrew, Miami-Dade County, you know, sort of like a leader because it was such a terrible situation and there was such a complete breakdown of everything in the county as a result, decided to essentially get together every entity that might apply for money, every municipality, every agency of the county, all the big public hospitals, universities, everybody, in what came to be called the Local Mitigation Strategy Work Group. And the purpose of this work group is to have everybody get together, put in proposals for what they need, their kind of wish list. You know, the projects have to be described, not in tremendous detail. These aren't full grant applications, but they have to have a kind of cost benefit analysis done, which enables them to be ranked. And I'll show you what that all looks like in just a second. But the idea is everybody agrees that everybody abides by this ranking. And then when there's a disaster and Dade County gets, say, $150 million, that money goes to the top people in the ranking. And because of that, you know, there's no like competition or anything like that between different entities. You know, the proposals go in. Now, if we have a proposal in and it gets funded, we hear that we're going to get funding for it, you know, then boom, suddenly that proposal, and you usually have like 4 months to turn that proposal into a real project. You know, so, but the thing is, at that point, the county jumps in to give maximum help if it's a small community, if it's a big entity, they have a staff to work on that proposal. So the LMS is a very strange body because it kind of doesn't exist officially. It's basically every entity that has an interest in getting money has agreed to abide by this system, to attend officially at least 2 meetings of the LMS, and to keep their proposals updated on the list, so they'll be eligible for funding.
Hey, Hugh,
Yes.
can we pause here for 1 second just to put a little structure around this? Just for a second. So, and this might be helpful. Since I've been reading a lot about this right now, I think I have probably a better framework. What I want to propose, I think that for the rest of the committee members who are probably hearing this for the first time, and the fact that we have Christia's report, we have the memo that we just wrote, we have a lot of paper to read through here, and I'm going to let Hugh keep going. But what I think we should be listening for right now is just the kind of using this information to orient ourselves. And then I think we need to take the next 2 weeks to thoroughly read everything that is going to be in front of us, including what Omar just sent. Like, we should consider these next 2 weeks to sort of be a study period. And that I really think that what we are talking about, or what I would propose for our agenda for next time, is to come back together and synthesize a lot of these ideas into a plan for what our next sprint is going to look like as a committee. Does that make sense to people?
I think that makes total sense, and I am certainly planning on doing that. And I think that some of these discussions, that some of these explanations you guys are providing, would be more helpful to me after I've had an opportunity to read some of the documents. I plan on doing that by next meeting. So I think that that's a great suggestion, Kristen. And also, I need to point to the clock. We are running a little bit low on time for today.
Are we supposed to be done at 5:30?
We are.
Yeah.
So, and Hugh, what you sent via Omar, is that all of that you're going to send, or do you want to send more?
No, I just, basically, the idea of having a study period is really good. There's one specific, I guess very specifically, the most urgent needs are A, to have somebody from the task force be willing to represent the village at the LMS meetings.
And there's one coming up before our next meeting, right? September 15th, right?
September 15th.
When are those meetings? Are they during the day? Are they at night? Are they already announced?
They're during the day. You don't really have to be there if you can on September 15th. It's all webinar now.
That's Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday. I'm sorry, whatever. It's September or October.
Wednesday is the 16th.
Yeah, we'll send you that.
My husband's getting a hip replacement. I know, Wednesday the 16th of September.
Yeah.
Maribel will not be covering that meeting.
Yeah, that's not so important. What I think is most important is that you learn about this stuff and give Christia some assistance, working individually, delegating, the way. So I just want to take 1 more minute to show you 2 documents. Can I screen share? Share
yes, something. It'll probably be at the bottom of there'll be a green button at the bottom.
Yeah. Here, so many things up here. Hang on a second.
In my previous life, I could have scheduled to do that, but not right now as a first grade teacher.
Okay.
Unless it's after 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And these are quarterly meetings?
Yes. Actually, the meetings are much less important than helping Christia. Okay, I've clicked
with the paperwork.
Yeah, I've clicked on sharing. Okay. Oh, here. Well, do you see?
Anybody ever seen the Penguins of Madagascar movie when the villain
Yes.
lands in with his glasses because he can't figure out how to?
Yes.
You're looking like that right now, Hugh.
Yeah.
I was having kids headbutt.
Thanks to Hugh. Be nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I click on select the window or app. Oh, here we go. Okay. I didn't see this share button. Oh God, I have too many windows open. Are you seeing a spreadsheet somewhere?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we see a spreadsheet.
Am I moving it around now?
No.
No.
So this isn't the one.
Oh.
I have too big a screen here.
All right. While Hugh is pulling that up.
Yeah.
Is that the spreadsheet that I just sent everybody, Hugh, that you sent me earlier?
Yeah, it's the one that says Irma projects. That
One
was
of you guys might be able to pull it up, you guys. It's the one I just sent to everybody from Hugh. It was two documents.
I'm not understanding why it's not showing up.
Hugh,
If that's something that was sent out as well, is that that'll be something that we can review in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So is this a spreadsheet detailing all of what our village manager's requirements are?
No,
For this?
I just wanted to show you what the list of LMS projects look like. Yeah, Courtney.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I won't really explain that to you, but this is the current list of projects everybody has. And we have our 2 projects in there on line 70 and 72, I think. And if right now, some small projects might be funded because there's still loose money hanging over from Hurricane Michael. But if Florida gets hit by a major hurricane this season and a ton of money comes into the state, first off, if it hits us directly, then we get 15% of our damages. So that money comes in. If it hits some other county that isn't prepared to spend the money right away, there's what's called tier 2 and tier 3. Any money that's left over gets shared. So look this over. This just gives you an idea of the kind of projects that are there. One problem we've had, we got bumped down because I think 2 or 3 years ago, we missed attendance at some of the meetings. But the other thing is this list needs to have a bunch of smaller projects for El Portal. What happens is, like, when the final money came through from Irma after the state basically stiffed Miami-Dade County for about 60 million. There's a steering committee that I'm on that has to decide what to do. Typically, the city of Miami Beach could spend all the money themselves. So there's an effort, like at the end, reaching the goal. The goal is to get as many projects in the priority thing funded. So, and to spread the money out as much as possible. So a lot of municipalities that had, $100,000, $300,000 projects got them funded because they were small enough to get in, and the big ticket items didn't. So keeping this list up, adding things is really important. So please review that, and that'll just give you the sort of sense of what's there. We can put projects on this list for potential funding that are also projects we're looking for funding for elsewhere. If we get funding elsewhere, we take them off, use the money for matching. Okay, the second thing I want to share with you, if I can, is the LMS project priority worksheet. Could you pull that up, Courtney? Or I can try to share it. No, I can't because you're the sharing person, Courtney. Courtney, can you, did you pull it up?
I think it's there, Hugh.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry, I'm looking. I shouldn't have two screens. Okay, again, I can't really explain this, but you know, this is essentially what we do in the proposal is you put in a paragraph and you can read the paragraphs in the other spreadsheet. But El Patel has to fill out this cost benefit review, and it's carefully designed to, well, you just have to read it and see. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, but this is where we have to do this for new proposals. We really have to, you know, it's something where Christia and Robert simply don't have the time to dig into the details. You know, I can work with anybody who wants to do this, but for example, for our two big pump proposals, we need to revisit this because we can boost our priority ranking tremendously. For example, those pump proposals are critical to the sea level rise mitigation plans for the C7 basin, which has like probably 600,000 people living in it. And making El Patel more resilient allows the county to safely run more water down the Little River, and it contributes to the resilience of all those people upstream. Anyway, so those are things to look at. The final thing I have to say on this is about my role. I mean, I can be your staff person working on this, but because I'm on the steering committee of the LMS, I can never argue for El Patel other than just applying the rules and getting the message to the village to do more for their proposals. But I have tremendous knowledge of the process. So if anybody in the task force is like working on this, you know, you can back up Christia. You know, I mean, I've told Christy and Robert that, you know, we need to work on the plan. And numerous times I've sort of offered to help. I mean, my time is limited too sometimes just by old age feebleness, but you know, they just don't have the time to get into these details. But one of you working with me or more of you or a new person on the task force, you know, we can really get into this, you know, get the best possible priority ranking for the two we have, but add a bunch more. And again, it doesn't take a huge proposal. That only happens, the huge proposal only happens if we get the funding. You know, then we really have to go to town and start working on it. But the critical thing is this priority ranking.
Okay, so given that it's 5:35,
Yeah.
you, I think you've made a compelling case for why we have to actually dig in and understand this a little bit more. So, Madam Chairperson, I turn it back to you, but I think just to double down on what I said a minute ago, I think the goal really should be that we should think of ourselves as in research mode for the next, research and synthesis mode for the next 2 weeks, and that we should come back together and maybe think about laying out all the possible things that we could be doing and how, and what our understanding of the priority of them and impact of them is based on what we learn over the next 2 weeks.
And one last sentence is I will send Omar some more material for you to look at on how the LMS works. There's a lot of documents. So I'll try to pick out the key ones to wade through. I think the priority thing is the most important for now.
Great. Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask, is this something that Councilperson Werner Dreyer what was he involved in this? Maybe he would like to be a member of this task force if this is some of the things that he was beginning to work on and was passionate about.
Well,
I don't know. I'm just asking.
yeah, I don't know. At the time, I guess at the time I was bugging him because there were these critical meetings and his job prevented him from going any of them. I think I was a little, I mean, one incredibly critical meeting the mayor went to, and she was unbelievably eloquent and had a major impact on the planning process. But, there's hasn't been any follow through yet. That's why the connection to the county's mitigation or resilience office is so important. They went ahead actually and have gotten a grant to work with the Little River Conservancy and Oakland Grove neighborhood across the street and us and El Pertel.
That's great.
So they're like, they really want to go on it. And, they also want to address, I talked to Katie Hageman, who's the number 2 top dog there. She comes to the river cleanup and everything. But she really wants us to start thinking about long-term issues like, should we be applying for money for raising houses in the really low elevation? Things like that. How are we going to really put together a strategy with the county on this sewer issue, given it's so expensive?
Was that raising RAZ or RAIS?
The latter.
Okay. No, it was a serious question.
It is a good question because, in waterfront properties, the FEMA in some cases are telling people, the thing is we don't have any repeated lost properties in the village where, somebody's had to rebuild their house completely after flooding. And this is relates to, never mind, forget it. But this is all on the table that you guys can be getting into in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Gladwin and Kristen, for providing all of that. And I totally agree. I think a strategic plan moving forward after we have a chance to really deep dive into all these things is going to be really beneficial. And I think I speak for everyone that we're really happy to support the village in all the things that you just discussed. So perfect. Does anyone else have anything to add on H5 before we move on? Okay.
Just the one of the things I'll say to Omar is that Omar, I've been putting all of this into a shared drive, so I can help you. I think maybe we want to organize the documents. Like we could maybe, I know you and I are going to be talking on Friday, just on a sidebar. So maybe we can talk about. We can figure out a way to organize these documents to make the digestion process a little bit easier for the members of the committee. So we'll figure out how to do that.
Thank you.
And if you're meeting Friday, before then, I will have my little guide to what's important.
Awesome.
In your reading.
Perfect. Okay, great. So obviously that is a nice, easy segue into H6, grant and funding opportunities. And I believe the only other grant and funding opportunities we had was what we briefly discussed in our last meeting that I had shared with the task force on FDEP's Coastal Planning Initiative grant program. Vice Mayor, have we heard anything back from Robert Ruano about that?
The grant writer, no, we haven't yet, but I have a meeting with him. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kristen. Yeah.
Just I just because there's so many acronyms. Is this the CPI program?
I believe so. Coastal Partnership Initiative grant.
Yeah.
Program.
So I just want to say that I got on the list to hear from the state when those grant RFPs become available. They normally could become available in August. They're not out yet that I can find.
So the one I'm talking about is actually due by September 25th.
Okay, then it must be a different one.
Which that might just end our entire discussion, frankly. So what did Mr. Ruano say about the September 25th one, Vice Mayor?
Yeah,
which
so
makes me think like there's a different one that you're referring to, Kristen, which is great.
It must be. Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah, Mr. Arana was also concerned about the time there because of the time it takes to write a grant and, to get it all done. But I do have a meeting set up with him Monday morning.
Okay.
So he just couldn't be here today. He just his schedule, he couldn't be here today, but he wanted to apologize for that. I do have a meeting with him set up for Monday morning, and we haven't given up on it. It is September 9th, but we have a meeting Monday morning about that. The other grant that's in there that the manager, if you guys remember last time, the manager kind of introduced to us, that one's not due until November. Sometime in November. So for that one, we're definitely going to try to, move ahead with that. So you guys can, I know you guys got it last time. Look over it again for our next meeting in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions or anything about it, I'll definitely try to have him on. He said he's going to try to get on whenever the next meeting was going to be. As far as the meeting on Monday that I have with him, I'll meet with him. I will keep you CC'd in that communication, Madam Chair, and we can go from there. What we can do is, since I am meeting with him on Monday and we do not have another meeting as a task force until the 23rd, what we can do is right now ask if any of the members have any questions or any problems. I guess the better question is, do any of the members have any problems with the CPI that you put forward, Madam Chair? Because if they don't, then if they are good with that, then once I meet with him on Monday and keep you CC'd in that communication, Madam Chair, we can just go ahead with it because we will have the blessing of this task force. That's up to the task force.
That is fine with me, but that's not surprising as I proposed it. But what do the other task force members have to say?
So sorry, Elizabeth, I missed that this was what I was thinking about, but I mean, I didn't realize that it had this deadline. I didn't find this. There's so many things floating around.
Sure.
So this is the $60,000 grant that I was thinking of.
It is CPI. You're right.
Yeah, the CPI grant. So, one of the things that we, if we wanted to apply for this, we would have to decide what to apply for, pretty much immediately.
Right.
And one of the things that just because we've been talking about it as a possibility outside of this committee, but I just want to float it as an idea because I think we could put it together pretty quickly, would be a tree restoration project along the banks of the Little River that would be for native habitat for nesting birds.
I had a similar thought. I love that idea.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I think that I already have the native plants list. we've already talked to the Seabird Station because this dovetails with their efforts to maintain and restore the bank on their piece of property. And also we have a very strong relationship with Oakland Grove. So I think that we probably could put together a pretty compelling grant that would be nice and easy to understand, that would have the numbers attached to it pretty quickly. So I don't know, Vice Mayor Nickerson, if you want to talk about, again, we could talk about this tomorrow, and if the committee wants me to try to put that together, we could do that and talk to Mr. Ruano about it on Monday.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if this, if the committee, the task force is good for this, is good with this, then after I meet with Mr. Ruano, I can keep all of you guys involved in the communication. The only reason why I said I would keep the chair was because, I didn't know if it was something that would pass through the task force today. But if it does pass through the task force, then I can keep all of you included in that communication because it's an afterthought at that point.
I would want to make a motion to go ahead and try and go for it, No harm, no loss if he's willing to take recommendations, and Kristen feels that it's a fairly easy application. I would support that he move forward and try to go for it.
So how is Mr. Ruano compensated? Is he compensated by the hour so that if we pursue a grant that it's something that comes out of the village coffers? How does that work?
He is compensated by the hour. currently. But in the budget, in the new budget, we're going to revisit that though. But currently, yes.
So I guess my question is, with any one of these grants, don't we want to say, hey, do we think we have a real legitimate shot? Is it worth spending his time? As opposed to if he were a full-time employee, we just say, hey, let's bump this up on his priority list. Because if we spend money on him, we can't spend money on sandbags or whatever else we need to in the village. If we think we have a good shot at this and it makes sense, great. If we think this is a last minute, let's throw a Hail Mary, maybe not good use of village's money. But I just don't know. Which
is a good point, Madam Chair, if I may. Which is a good point. You guys do what you want to do. And I think what we're doing as far as the scheduling of the meetings is a good thing. But this is another thing that because of the scheduling of the meetings and things like that, it's just something that we just don't know right now. I don't meet with him until after this meeting is over, so we don't know.
So this, to me, seems like something that would be, I think what you're getting at, Vice Mayor, is that we don't have another meeting for 2 weeks, right? Is that what you're referring to? I mean, this to me, when we're asking for between $10,000 and $60,000 to do, natural and native shoreline restoration, like that does sound like something to me that is worth having a meeting in a week for, as opposed to, the discussion we were having about the water conservation pledge. So I would be willing to, perhaps I'd like to hear what he has to say on Monday. And if it's something that we think is viable and we could put together a viable proposal for, I would be more than happy to have a meeting in a week to approve that if need be, or as Mayor Bell suggested, approving it through the task force, because we really don't need to approve it because it goes to Village Council.
I mean, you guys, if part of the question is if it's worth it, that will come out, that will come out in the meeting that I'm having with him. But the task force will not be, in that meeting. If you guys do want to have another meeting in, a week from now on Wednesday, I can have him at that meeting and you guys can ask him whatever questions you want to ask him the same way we did with the attorney today.
Hugh's hand is up.
What was that, Courtney?
Hugh's hand is up.
Oh, Mr. Glavin.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, there's an alternative plan, which is the Little River Conservancy, which can also apply for grants as a nonprofit, could go ahead and initiate this. And if we did that, I'm pretty sure that Pelican Harbor would.
My recollection, Mr. Gladwin, is for this one, it was for municipalities.
Oh, municipality.
Okay. I believe.
501c3s can apply, but they need a municipal partner.
Okay.
So I think it really depends on, it's really a matter of how quickly can we put it together, and would the application be strengthened by multiple partners on it, which I think Robert Rowan will have an idea about.
Right.
Yeah. The only gain, I think, for going the route I mentioned is we get, that Pelican Harbor's grant writer, we don't have to pay.
Oh, that's true. They have a dedicated grant writer and they would help us. It's a little late for this, but just to say, we have a really good partner now across the river who can help us.
And they're very into wanting to partner with the City of Miami, Oakland Grove, where they are, and El Portal and all these things. So.
Yeah, they're great. I've partnered with them with education. So they're a great organization.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
What we could do, Madam Chair, is, because let's say on Monday when I have my meeting with him, if he feels like the grant isn't worth it or we can't do it within the amount of time, then that would make having another meeting within a week, it doesn't need to happen. What I can do as a liaison and, kind of like a side clerk, what I can do as a liaison is what we do when we have special council meetings, which is that the clerk, liaison, I can contact everybody individually and get a sense of if I can get a quorum out of the individuals for a council meeting within a week. I
love that idea. So if on Monday he tells you it's a good opportunity, it's a good option, then we circle back and see if we can get a quorum together for next Wednesday. Exactly. I'm in favor of that if the rest of the task force is.
I suggest, based on everything we've talked about, we do it next Wednesday, and that gets us on the schedule of first and third Wednesdays, because that would be the third Wednesday of the month. So if we do it on a week from today, and then we don't meet again for whatever it is, 3 weeks or whatever the first Wednesday is of October, then we're on our desired schedule.
Okay.
There's just, my only concern is that if on Monday the grant writer says this is a no-go, we don't have much to discuss next Wednesday.
Oh, I think we will have a fair amount to discuss. We'll have a bunch of stuff from Q to review all these documents. I'll definitely have the updated piece. And we'll have reviewed the manager's stuff. I think we will have more than our 2 hours, aka 2.5 hours.
Does everyone feel like the 1 week will give them enough of an opportunity to review all the documents we've received today?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
I can do it.
I got no problem.
I have
my best to simplify.
Yeah, can we simplify the amount of documents we want to talk about, and that would be easier.
Right.
Like I said, you guys, I think that I can create, maybe what I can do is create a document with links for you to download where we can group and organize the documents in a narrative way that will help you guys kind of work through it all. So it's not
That'd
just
be
like
great.
a pile of paper on the desk.
Yeah, and Kristen, when you're doing that, if you can keep in mind what you want the outcome to be, i.e. what we want the task force to do is these 3 things or these 4 things, which you had at bullet points in that memo. If we can tie it back, so at the end of it, we can say, okay, do we agree we want to do item number 1? Yes. Okay, how do we do that? Who's going to do it? Is it Kristen? Is it Elizabeth? Is it Courtney? Is it Maribel? Is it Lynn? That kind of stuff.
Courtney, I love your drive for results. The only reason I don't want to actually give you guys like finished objectives is because I think there's room on the table for other things, and I want to make space for that, like liaisoning with other resiliency things. So what I would propose is, and this is something that I do all the time in my professional work, is why don't I frame it as a series of questions and make sure that in the document we also reflect some of the things that we've been talking about, but leave space for people to bring other additional ideas to the meeting. But if we frame it as a series of questions, hopefully that will help direct us to get to some kind of consolidated answer.
I think that sounds great, because I'm sure that we all have some additional things that we'd want to add to the mission of the task force.
Exactly, and that sounds like we are heading towards that. I don't know how that relates to our earlier agenda item where we were talking about the structure, but anyway.
Okay, so everyone feels as though if Kristen kind of provides us a consolidated document that we can review all these documents within the next week, such that next Wednesday's meeting would still be productive.
Yes.
And worthwhile.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So we will go ahead and have a meeting next week then. Do we need to vote on that or anything, Vice Mayor?
No, Madam Chair, you don't need to vote on that. At H7, we can scratch. I didn't know how you guys wanted to handle the board, any possible board vacancies. I didn't know if you guys wanted to have, heads up from a board member if they were going to leave, like how long, or if you guys, wanted an official letter of resignation. It's really not that important. It was just something just to kind of make you guys start to think about. That's all. That would be part of, you guys can also put that with the roles and responsibilities once you guys figure it out.
Okay, Omar, I'll add in the process, at least for a discussion point on that, so that people can start thinking about that as well.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Glenn, do you have your hand up still, or is that old?
Oh, sorry, no.
No, that's, I just saw it.
Yeah.
Great, okay, does anyone have any other, just in the spirit of brevity, anyone have anything else on 6, 7, or 8? Okay. All right. So that's more generally. Do any of the task force members have anything to add? As unfinished business or general orders?
Not really, Madam Chair. If I may, really quickly though.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, I just want to give a special thanks to Chief Magnuson. This is his week that he's not in the office, and he reached out to me yesterday and said that even though he's at home this week, he still wanted to be on, and he's been on the entire time. So he went above and beyond to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Magnuson.
Thank you, Chief.
Very, 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 very much. Thank you very much, Chief Magnuson. Is there anything you want to say, or you're good? You're muted.
Yeah, I didn't shave. That's it.
Good for you.
Thank you, though.
Enjoy.
Wonderful.
It's good for your face.
I've enjoyed seeing you in your T-shirt in front of your bookshelf. I saw that a lot last night also. So
Yeah, thanks.
nice to see you in a more casual context.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, library.
I'm out in Tennessee, by the way. I'm missing all the Miami rain, I guess.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
How nice.
In the Smoky Mountains. Yeah.
I'm near Chattanooga.
Okay.
And he's still able to come on. So I really appreciate that, Chief. I appreciate you reaching out and really getting back to me.
My pleasure. Glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief.
And Ms. Purcell, we love it that you're here with us, Ms. Purcell. We miss you. We love it that you're here.
Yay, Lynn.
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you all.
Sorry about your uncle. Sorry to hear about your uncle.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
So, also, Madam Chair, if you guys remember, I think on the first meeting or second meeting, I asked, I'll keep reminding you guys, I asked if you guys can please send me a headshot. Mr. Kirk, what you have up right now as your image is perfect. If you guys can see that, now that we have a village clerk.
Dartboard material. It is perfect dartboard material.
It looks perfect. That's all I need right there. Now that we have an interim clerk, hopefully everything will get back on schedule as far as being uploaded back to the website and things like that. So,
you need Vice Mayor, you need a photo, or you're requesting a photo and a bio, you said, or just a photo?
A photo and a bio, yeah, okay. if possible. It's not a rush, but the sooner that I can get it, the sooner that I can, just get everything uploaded and get that on there.
All right, photo and bio.
That's it for me, Madam Chair. The floor is back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have new business? All right, and now I'm going to open this up to any residents who we have on the line for good and welfare. If anybody in the audience would like to participate, give it 1 second.
I don't think there is anybody who's not a panelist.
I don't think so. I was just giving it a second. All right, and that being said, I think we are ready to adjourn. Do any task members have anything else to add?
No, just that you guys rock.
Nope.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you.
I second that motion to adjourn.
Second, Vice Chair Freedstone, and I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you have to do all in favor aye, all opposed nay.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say nay. Hearing none, the El Portal Virtual Resiliency Sustainability Task Force meeting is officially adjourned at 6 p.m.
Bam.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye. Bye.